I'd like to welcome you to our presentation today on the findings from this very important new study on Christian nationalism. This survey of more than 6,000 Americans, conducted jointly with Brookings, sheds new light on the underpinnings of Christian nationalist ideology. It is my pleasure now to introduce to you Dr. Robert P. Jones, the president and founder of PRRI. He is the author of White Too Long, The Legacy of White Supremacy in American Christianity, which won a 2021 American Book Award. He is also the author of The End of White Christian America.
It was made possible through the generous support of the Foundation to Promote Open Society.
No.
With additional support from the Carnegie Corporation of New York, the Wilbur and Hilda Glenn Family Foundation, and the Unitarian Universalists program at Shelter Rock. So thank you to all of those funders who made this study possible today.
Economic power up until the 60s pretty much rested with white people. It didn't matter if you were in control of the Ford GM management structure or you had the day versus the night shift in the factory floor. So isn't it true for white people that they have less economic power and feel that way than they did in 1955 when they didn't have to compete with blacks, they didn't have to compete with women? I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying the average 75-year-old remembers when they ruled, rich or poor.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much.
I'm curious, at least in my mind, it feels like the kind of war on education that's going on in Florida and elsewhere is much rooted in a attempt to kind of whitewash the history of Christian nationalism in this country. And I'm curious if you folks agree with that and what we can do about it.
Well, I'll start with Florida. So my daughter lives in Florida, so I've been following things fairly closely down there. And, you know, the word that just keeps coming to my mind, I haven't written anything about this, but it is cover up. Right? That's what we're really seeing, right? Just at the moment that our very challenging history is coming to light, right? We have the Black Lives Matter movement kind of bringing this stuff up into kind of broad international consciousness, right? At least in my generation, that's something fundamentally unique that in my lifetime that I really haven't experienced. And I think just at the time that's coming to the fore, just at the time there's a reckoning with that history, there's a cover-up, right? And I think all of the stuff around so-called critical race theory is really about just not wanting to deal with this. How do we not deal? We take it off the shelves, right? Just as there is an explosion of resources and books and stuff coming online, we just make sure that stuff's not there, right? And so I think it is a denial of history as a way of kind of maintaining the status quo. Right, and that's really what's going on there, and it's under the guise of Christianity. Like much of this is going on, and you know, really this goes to your point too. Like you could take your economic point to public schools, right? So I grew up in public schools in Jackson, Mississippi. We had a Christmas party in my homeroom every year, like without any sort of blink of an eye and any of that. By the way, I'm 54. My public school in Jackson, Mississippi wasn't even desegregated until I was in third grade. 1976, right? By the time desegregation actually happened in Jackson, Mississippi. So we had Christmas parties and all white Christmas parties until third grade, right? And so those changes, they're big, right? And we are like, that's still very, much barely in the rearview mirror.